the conversation. Welcome to the SPSJ Podcast.
Well, hello and welcome to another SPSJ podcast. We've given Grace a break for this episode, so I'm going to be hosting. If you don't know who I am, I'm Andy. I'm the vicar here at SPSJ, and today I'm joined with obviously our producer Heather.
I like the nickname.
Producer Heather.
Producer Heather, yeah.
Do you like that?
Mm-hmm.
It's nice, isn't it? And Mary Lynn's back again. Hello, Mary.
Hello again.
Although we weren't on the panel together last time.
No.
So this is our first time together. And also for the first time, we have Zoe Morrison, who's one of our mums here at SPSJ.
Hi.
So welcome, Zoe.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
So today we are going to be thinking around church culture. I did an interview where I caught up with one of the senior pastors from a church called Watermark Church out in Dallas that I got to visit last year on my sabbatical. And yeah, so that's what we're thinking. I mean, what do we think of when we think of culture? What is culture? Any ideas, anybody? Like, come on, Heather, you're a football coach.
Yeah.
You must talk about culture all the time.
Actually, the way that you want, like for me with coaching, it's all about the way that I want my team to play. The values that I want to instill in them and how they express themselves on the pitch is a reflection of maybe the culture that I want to kind of project into the team.
Absolutely. And so John's going to be sharing some of the kind of things that have been important to them as a church and how they've developed their culture. Just to give you a bit of a kind of an idea, so Watermark started in, I think it was 1995 with about 150 people. They now have over 10,000 and over 100 staff. So they've grown enormously in the last 25 years.
A little bit bigger than SPSJ.
A little bit bigger than us, you know, but we're about the size they were when they started. So, you know,
You never know. You never know.
But I think, yeah, what they've got to kind of share is really, really good. So, yeah, should we take a listen?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Definitely.
Well, I'm delighted to be joined today for our podcast by John McGee. John is the Senior Director of Watermark Resources, which is a church out in Dallas. John, welcome.
Thank you, brother. It's great to be with you, Andy.
Yeah, it's great to be speaking to you again. So I got to visit Watermark Church out in Dallas for the Church Leaders Conference that John heads up the team for a couple of years ago now, and absolutely loved my time out there. And it was wonderful. And I hope the conference went well this year. John.
It was great. We had 3,200 church leaders from around the world, and it was a really special moment. So people that are doing really good work, and we just wanted to encourage them, remind them that what they do really does matter. And we had some special moments. It was God was kind. God was kind, and we had some good. Just like last year when you were here, I think, did we share a barbecue meal together?
We did. Loved it.
Yes. So that's always. You know, if no matter how bad the conference is, the food is always great. So it was a really
the food
fun
was
year.
Fantastic. It was really good. And one of the things that really struck me when I was out with you guys was, which is what we're going to be talking about today, is around church culture. And it was so clear to me, you guys had just spent a lot of effort on this as a church, because the welcome, and it was just genuine warmth that you kind of received when you visited you guys. And but I think that thinking of culture, I wonder if there's something we should kind of clear up first, because I know I had this when people knew I was coming out to Dallas to visit you guys. I think it's fair to say that Texans have a particular reputation over here. So everyone thinks you're all kind of gun carrying, particular type of Christianity.
Yes.
You all live on ranches. So can we dispel this myth right at the start for all those listening in England?
Yes. Well, here's my ranch. I don't know if you can see right there. So yeah, no, we're I'm sitting in a concrete jungle, no ranch. And yes, are there big ranches in Texas? Absolutely. And are there some guns? Sure, there are, and but I think just like anywhere, any group, it's the extremes that make the news headlines, and so we're at a congregation that just like you, we're trying to understand what Jesus would have us do, and just do that, and not make it any more complicated than that. So no guns. I live in the suburbs. I mow my lawn just like everyone else. I do not ride a horse. And I do not have a sidearm on me, or do I own one? So yes.
Brilliant. There we go. So we dispel that myth straight from the start here. Yes, like anywhere, there are always varieties of people there. So you talk there about trying in your church to create a culture, doing what you think Jesus would call you to be doing. So
Yeah.
how do you kind of go about that? I mean, everyone seems to be talking about culture these days. Over here in England, I hear this quote a lot, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Everyone is quoting this and partly probably because everyone's tried strategies and they don't work anymore.
That's right. Right.
So how do you go about this strange thing called culture?
Yes, and that's Peter Drucker, and I don't even know. I think I've tried to chase that quote down at one point, Andy, and I don't know that he even said it. It's always attributed to him, although he may. Your listeners may be able to correct me, but it's always attributed to Peter Drucker, who was a really good, clear thinker, and so that idea I think is right. Is that as culture is so incredibly powerful. And so Peter Drucker, or whoever said that, was that if you can get your culture right, everything else really will fall into place. And that's probably the most difficult part, the most strategic part. And then, if I don't know who listens to this podcast, but if it's pastors, if it's people who are trying to do good work, basically you're always trying to get people to do something that you think would be best for them and for their city or their town, their small group, their family. And culture is an amazing way to do that. If you can get a strong culture that's clear, then people will then kind of self-police. They will motivate each other. They will help each other do that once it's clear and once you've explained what it is and it's really set. But it is very, very difficult and arduous to do, which is why a lot of people don't think about culture, whether they don't build it. But I think the first step, if you want to talk, when I think about culture, there's kind of like 6 steps, I think, to it. But the first one really, and this is tough, is just to clarify it. So by that, I mean, you as a leader or as a member of a group, you have to decide what it is that you want to be about, right? So you could say as a pastor or you're a vicar, which sounds so cool. We don't have vicars here. I'm a minister, but someday I'm going to grow up and I want to be a vicar. So as someone who's a leader there, Andy, you've got to decide specifically, what do we want the culture of our church to be? What do we want the culture of our staff to be? And it's not, we just want to be a good church. That's so nebulous. You really couldn't help people make hard decisions based on that. But if you so, like one of our values here at our church is that at the staff level, we want to be a unified church, meaning we want to resolve conflict well. And then at the church level, we say we want to resolve conflict biblically. And so we want to be very committed to resolving conflict. Like that's part of who we are. That's part of the culture here. There's lots of things we've identified, but that's one. And so then once you've identified it, and just jump in here, let me give you 2, and then you can interact with that. So you want to clarify it, and then you want to start to communicate. So you've got to be clear as a leader, the leaders, or just as the group. You just want to be able to, here in the U.S. we say stack hands on that, meaning you agree with what it is that you're trying to do. So you clarify it, and then second, you start to communicate it. And here's what I've noticed is that if you're coming up with culture, if you're trying to drive it, it's always very, very clear in your mind. You know exactly what it means. You know how you would explain it. You know what it would look like to live it out. You know what it would look like to violate that. It is literally crystal clear in your head. And when you go to explain it, and others, they have no idea, or they have a perception that is not yours, that they do not share. So, in the church context, you want to talk about biblically where that where that comes from. It needs to, be from God's word. So when you think about conflict, there's lots of places we go. We always talk about starting with ourselves. Kind of Matthew 7:3-5. You want to get the log out of your own eye. If you're going to talk about resolving conflict, that's always the first step. It's always the hardest step, with the most fruitful, right? We'll talk about things like, that you don't have to have, you don't need to bring everything up. You don't have to kind of go and talk everything through and confront people. Proverbs 19 says that it is the glory of a man to overlook an offense. Some things are just small. Extend grace, and then there are some times when you need to go to someone and say, I think this isn't preference, this is sin. And so then we talk about, Matthew 18, right? And so you want to anchor it biblically. You want to talk about, give language towards it. When we say, when do you go and confront someone? Well, when it hurts, when it's hurting them, when it's hurting others, or it's hurting their witness for Christ. And so that's language we have that people can run through the grid. Okay, if it's not one of those, it's probably just preference. That's okay. Like, I just extend grace. And then you give them kind of like rallying cries if you can. And so we talk about the 24-hour rule here. And so what that means, Andy, is let's say, if I had a friend and I said, can you believe what Andy did? I don't like him. Whatever. My friend would go, hey, John, you got 24 hours to go talk to Andy about that, because I think you've just sinned against him. And if you don't, it's okay, but I'm going to go with you, and I'm going to call Andy and say, you've been speaking poorly about him. You've been gossiping about him. That's not okay. We don't do that here. So I'm going to go with you. So that really cuts down, the gossip, when that your friend, might pick up the phone and say, hey, this is not what we do. John said this. I think he wants to honor Christ, but in this moment he hasn't, and it's going to be good for us to dwell together in unity. So now let's have this conversation. And so that would be, and you just have to kind of keep saying that. So, and if I think about 6 steps, those are the first 2, is to clarify it. And then to begin to communicate. Does that make sense or resonate with you?
No, that makes absolute sense. And one of the things that really struck me from visiting you guys and going to some of the ministries that you're running in the church while I was over there, just to kind of see things in action, was what I was hearing you guys describe, that this is what we're trying to be, was then what I was also seeing, and even down to like chatting with somebody who was just a member of the church or coming along to a particular ministry. They were backing up exactly what I was hearing from the front. So clearly kind of communication is working well, because I was hearing the same thing throughout, no matter who was talking to me. But I was also surprised, I think, that way you managed to create a culture where people were able to be open and honest about their struggles. And over here in England, that just seems really difficult in our churches. There's a kind of, fear of a judgment, fear of what would happen next when you're open and honest. And I'm intrigued, kind of, how long did it take for you guys? Is it something that comes more naturally to Americans, or, have you really worked, like, there's some horrible moments to kind of get to where you are now?
Yeah, we're in Texas. We just fire guns and talk about all our shortcomings, over a beer, right? That's what. No, we are human. We tend towards self-protection since the fall, 100%. But that's a great example. And actually, so our church's name is Watermark. And so, which is embedded in the name, actually is, we say it's a couple of things. One, it's a symbol of excellence, and that, excellence honors God and inspires others. So there's a watermark oftentimes on things that are good, healthy, and so that would, like paper, your better paper is going to have a watermark than just kind of the run of the mill at the convenience store. So it's a symbol of excellence, which I think honors God. And then second, it's a symbol of authenticity. That's how we actually know, on our, I can't remember how the pound is, but and on US currency, there's a watermark, and that's how you actually know that it's authentic. And so that's one of our it's embedded in our name. It's one of our cultural values. And we would just say, we want to be a church that is authentic. We want to be a people that's authentic. We don't want to put on airs or try to pretend to be somebody that we're not. So then you ask, how long did that take? We're celebrating our 25th anniversary. And I would say this is it's a really good progression. It was kind of aspirational. It was, here's who we want to be. Um, and we thought we knew what that looked like, but that really did kind of it grew over time. And I can remember there's again, we came right out of the gate. We were trying to be honest with each other, believing that, there's the proverb, it's 28:13. He who conceals his sin will not prosper, but he who confesses and renounces his sin will find mercy. And there's just something about when we hide our sin, how it kind of grows in the dark, it kind of dissipates in the light, and then we allow other people to help us. If we believe the gospel, like we've already been found out, so we don't, like, that's the kind of the opposite of the gospel, is to say that I'm great. No, that's all you have to say to receive the gospel, is that I'm not, and then but sometimes at church we change the narrative once we are believers, like everything's great. Well, it's not. We're still in process. We're being progressively sanctified. So we set it out at the beginning, and then I think like one of the big catalytic moments was a gentleman who's on staff now. His name is Nate Grable. He was struggling. He had a pornography struggle. And so I we just said, hey, how do you feel about sharing that in front of our church, which had never happened? And this is about year 3, 4, something like that, of our church. And so he and his wife just stood up, and the story wasn't over. It wasn't like he had 10 years of sobriety. He was, he was fighting the addiction right now, and he shared that, and rather than running him out of the church, I think there was a lot of people that said, oh yeah, me too, or mine's different, but yeah, thank you. And people moved towards him, and it became a safer place that day at our church. And so we share a lot of stories of grace, which includes the messy parts. We try not to shame people. We just encourage, like, I feel like honesty is where kind of healing, again, that proverb, that's where healing really begins, and we celebrate that. But we are all, I want you to think well of me, Andy, and so I don't want to tell you, I'm trying to think of the worst thing I've done in the last 7 days. I just, I've been too busy to really engage my wife. So I've got the afternoon off. I will pay my full attention. But the last 2 to 3 days, I've helped her around the house. I actually helped with laundry, right? So I'd want you to know that, think well of me. But I didn't sit down with her and say, hey, tell me about how you're really doing. How can I serve you? And so, but that's okay. Like, you don't now think that I'm a terrible husband. I love my wife, but I'm in process, and I'm not always 100% at my best. So it's been, I would say, part of the learning for culture, I'm sorry to go on a rant, is that you're going to have to clarify. It will grow over time. It will become clearer to you what you even mean, and it will take time. And then it's not as if everybody once and for all now will always be honest and authentic in our church. No, like, we have to keep reheating that, and I think that, so the next 2 steps I would say are number 3 would be to, like, once you have it set, you start to communicate it, would be to celebrate it. So when you see someone live out that value, so in that case, Nate Grable, he lived out that value of authenticity. You celebrate that. And the fun story is, he actually has come on staff and written a recovery ministry called Regen Recovery. That's part of what my team does, is share these resources with other churches. And, we're in like 150 churches, something like that, around the country. So actually, Nate's story, all he learned is this really robust, it's turned into a really robust discipleship ministry and so it's a beautiful story. But you celebrate it. So when you see someone being honest, you say thank you. That's what we're talking about with authenticity. When you see someone who's resolving conflict and fighting for unity, you celebrate it. You make a hero out of them. You can use that in a sermon illustration, in a group meeting, in a small group meeting. Hey, thank you. I want to call that out. I saw what you did. That's exactly what we're talking about. Way to go. Thank you for showing us what that looks like. Celebrate it. And then the other side of that is to correct it. And so you would say, if it's not, if someone's not doing that, probably pull them aside and just say, we are talking about resolving conflict. It felt like you were kind of, we want to be unified. It felt like you were a little bit gossipy there, or you weren't I don't know that that was really becoming of a Christian. And so I just wanted to say that, what are your thoughts on that? And so you want to correct, and if it's like if it's a group or congregational, miss or foul, as we say here in the US, then you'd want to address that with the group and say, that's actually not what we're talking about, and then it's always easier to throw yourself, under the bus and say, I actually didn't live out this value here, this week, or I missed. And, Andy, we were talking about just kind of slowing down. And so if that was something you were trying to drive through your congregation, if you didn't slow down this week, if you moved past someone who you knew you should have stopped with, you just say that. So people both have an idea of what it looks like to live out that value. And then they also have an idea of what it would look like to violate that value. And they understand kind of where these lanes are. And so I think, just celebrating it, which is really fun, making heroes out of the people who live out your values, and then correcting it has been part of the journey for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. Thank you. And I know in celebrating it, you guys do this really strange thing with a pair of socks in your teams, don't you?
Yeah. I could,
I've tried to explain it over here.
Oh,
it's not
gosh.
translated well. I'm not going to lie.
Across the pond. Well, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people here, in our same town. So to think about across the pond, this making sense, but I'll try to explain it. So, one of with this idea of excellence, going above and beyond would be one of the ways that would look like. We as a staff, not our church, but as a staff, we have this award. It's just called "You Knocked Our Socks Off." And so in the US, that if you say, "Well, you knocked our socks off," it's not something we say a lot, but what that means is that was amazing. Like, that was way more than I expected. I think it's not a real commonly used phrase, but that's what it means. And so we actually have a pair. We have these socks that are printed up with our church logo on it. And so occasionally we don't have any rhythm. It just generally what happens is one of the leaders just says, "Hey, we think." There's a group of 12 of us, and we'll send a text and go, "I think we need to give this person some socks." And so in our staff meeting, someone will have this pair of socks, and they'll just say, "Hey, hey, Susan, we had this event last week, and we saw what you did, and you solved, whatever, you solved these problems, you made it excellent. Everything start to finish was incredible, and you worked really, really hard." People commented about how amazing that event was. "Hey, Susan, you knocked our socks off." And so give her a pair of socks, and people cheer. So I don't recommend that. That would probably be really, really weird in your context.
I think I found somebody who a country that would get this. So literally just earlier today, when we're recording this, we have a lady who works for us called Sandra, who's moved over here from the Ukraine. Her husband's still over there, and she's been working with the Ukrainian community that's moved into our area. And she just literally this morning gave me a pair of socks from the Ukraine as a thank you. So maybe the Ukraine is the place that would get this. I don't know.
Yeah. But I think there's something, I don't have anything here, but there's something, you could have some type of award, or you don't even need an award, but just that. So what happens is, right. And so what happens is when you do that, they are the cheapest. You wouldn't wear them. Those socks are they're so cheap. But like, truly, I could take you out here into our offices, and you'll see some different pairs of socks that are just pinned, to a cubicle or to a wall. And it's a badge of honor. So what happens then is everyone who watched that, they go, "Okay, that's what that looks like to live out that value of excellence." And wouldn't we all want to gravitate towards, being celebrated like that? And so that's how that works. And we also do that generally. I don't know that we've ever given any of our senior leaders. I don't think we've ever given any of our senior leaders a pair of socks. It's generally a way also to kind of, one of our values is like, we're a team. Everybody's gifts are in play. Now, some people have a little bit more visibility. They've got microphones, those kinds of things. But if you're using your gifts here, you're a part of the team. And so it's also a way to kind of celebrate those who've been gifted by God, who are using, as Paul would be so proud, you're literally using your gifts to build up the body of Christ. And we want to celebrate that. And not just the person who gave the last sermon or the message, those kinds of things. So
that's interesting. So the senior leaders don't often get the socks, but when you talk about correcting behavior, you said it's easier for the senior leaders to demonstrate that in correcting themselves and being open about that. Yeah.
Just being vulnerable. Yeah. I would start there. I would start there for sure. So yeah. Two more things, Andy, and then anything else you want to, talk about. The fifth C is just to choose it. And by that, I mean, when you think about hiring so if you're going to hire and pay someone, or you're going to bring people in, volunteer leadership, or bring people into your group, we talk about the 3 C's: character, chemistry, and competency. And so of course they need to have great character. They need to, be trying to obey the commands of Christ, and they need to be good at whatever it is that they do. They need to have, some type of aptitude for what it is that they do, but there needs to be a chemistry. And so when you think about culture, when you bring people in, they need to be chemistry fits. And they may be amazing people, and they may be incredibly competent or gifted, but they're not going to align with your cultural values. I would not bring them on the team or put them in a position of leadership, because now they're going to work against you. And it's so hard to build culture. You've got to make sure that everyone is aligned. It's still going to be hard, even when everyone is aligned, but it becomes extremely difficult if they're not aligned. And so,
but sometimes I guess you don't know until
correct.
they're in position.
That's true.
What would you guys do then?
Yeah, well, you would want to be really clear on the front end. Even you'd ask all the questions you could. You want, that's references, or if we're talking about just in this instance, like hiring someone, always people that have known and had relationships with a longer time. All that's been borne out, and you can tell whether they would be a cultural fit or not. If someone new, you want to ask all kinds of questions, and then B, you want to make sure that you have said everything out loud that you want them to do and be. And so, for example, we just hired on my team, we have I think like a communications person that does all of our social media and all those kinds of things. We have lots of different ministries. It's a pretty complicated job. They lead a team. Well, one of the things they have to do, we have some kind of the senior leaders on our team. We try to lead together. And so it's a pretty boisterous group, and everybody states opinions. When we decide, and that's over. But everyone, we will. It might look like arguing from the outside. It's not. We're just sharing opinions. And so, trying to convey to this person that we hired, she's a female and just amazing woman. And so I'm 6'3". I don't know what that is. UK measurements.
We know 6'3". Yeah.
So I'm a large man. Sometimes I can be a bit brooding, and I just said, hey, listen, here's I think you're professionally, you're there. You've got your renown is you're walking with Jesus, and there's lots of cultural things. She's really fun, all those kinds of things. I said, but one of the things you have to do, especially in this leadership team, is you have to be able to go toe to toe with me, and you can't tell me that all my ideas are good. That's going to be terrible for us. If you greenlight every idea that I have, we will be sunk in 6 months, and I need you, and not just me, Nate Grable that I told you about, the gentleman that created the recovery ministry. He's got a strong personality, so several of us, and so you have to be able to kind of, we say in the US, like, stay in the ring with us. You can't run away. We're not mad. We're just going to talk it out, and then we're going to look to you to guide us, and we're going to defer to you, but you're going to have to. So if she didn't, then I think she will. I think she's up to the challenge. She starts here in a week or two, but if she doesn't, then I will be able to say, hey, I was crystal clear about this. Like, there shouldn't be any confusion, and I'm going to need you, and I'm going to ask you really to lean into this, because that's how we're going to get our best ideas, is where you stay. That's just
Definitely.
a lot of ways to do this is how we do it. And I'm going to need you to grow. Hey, is there something about me that makes that difficult? I know there is, but let's talk about that. How can I help you? But I just need, culturally, you've got to stay in the ring with me. So be clear on the front end, correct it kindly afterwards. So
We had an example of that actually just yesterday. I was talking on the phone to somebody, and he said to me, "Have you emailed them ahead of the meeting just to pre-warn them about this?" And I hadn't, and I was a bit grumpy about things, you know. So I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And he said, "No, I get that you don't want to, but I just think you should." So this morning, kind of went, "Okay, he's right. I'll send this email." I copied him in. And he texted me to say, you know, "Oh, the email read really well. Thank you for doing that." And I replied, "Thank you for the nudge to make me do that." You know, and as you said, it's that we need that, particularly if you're a strong personality, or you need those people, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. And you need to you affirm them. So what will happen then the very first few times she does that, you know, we're going to be in a meet. So she starts in a couple weeks, and it's just going to happen. She's going to go, "I don't know that we can pull that off." I'm going to go, "Thank you so much for saying that. That's exactly what we ask you to do." Now let's talk about, you know, what's right and best. But anytime I'm going to celebrate that, right, with her. So I think the last thing is we talk about, you know, kind of the C's of culture, is this idea of just cycling it, that it is going to take a long time. You're going to have to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And the adage is, when you're tired of saying it, they've just now heard it. And then you know when it's kind of made its way through the ranks, when this is how you know, is when they make fun of the point or the thing. It's now like it becomes a punchline of a joke, or there's this mantra that you have and they finish it like in a sarcastic way, just playfully, if you have that culture. And they're like, we know, the 24-hour rule or something like that, right? Now, okay, they understand it enough to make fun of it playfully. They can't work against it. They cannot. But that kind of like jokingly, hey, if you don't fix that, we're going to exercise a 24-hour rule on you, those kinds of things. Then you know that they've got it, but you just have to keep going. And I think the mistake I see pastors and leaders make is, again, they get away, they get it really clear in their head, and then they give one talk or they send an email and feel like that's it. Like, we're good for the next 20 years. Our culture is set, and you really haven't even begun the very first time that you say that. And you just you just have to keep repeating, keep celebrating, keep rephrasing it. And then when it happens, what'll happen is, a lot of times there'll be a phrase along the way or an action that you go, that is exactly it. And it will what's really fun is it will grow in meaning and depth, over time, if you're paying attention. But it's so hard. But I would just, the last thing I would just say is, it's worth it. And I love that Peter Drucker quote, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And another way to say it is that culture works while you sleep. And so if you get this right, Andy, and I know you took a sabbatical. Well, if culture is set, then even when you're not around, you're not in the room, you're not in the pulpit, you're not in the meetings, people know what to do, and then they also can help their friends. And so you may not be around, or your other leaders may not be around, or but when it's clarified and it's strong, it really does help people understand what it looks like to kind of walk in the way of this church, this organization, this group, this family. And so you can't just yell at the kids and tell them that's wrong. They need to understand what it is. And then when, hopefully when you launch them out, then they will be pre-programmed with that. One of our mantras as a family is we just take the next wise step. We don't have to figure things. We don't have to know all the things. And so just trying to teach my kids and remind myself, we don't need to be paralyzed to take steps if we can't see it all the way to the end. We just have to take the next wise step. And so, and I heard my oldest son, he's moved out. They just found out they were pregnant. It wasn't their plan, but they're pregnant. And he just said, "Hey, Dad, you know what? like you always said, I don't have to have this all figured out. I just need to take the next wise step, and so that's when he knew what it was. So one of our cultural our family values of we wanted our kids to be best friends when they moved out, and which was when they were little, was that we thought, they might inflict grave harm on each other in their 20s, and the thought of that was really tough, but it was something that we really worked really hard. We celebrated, we incentivized, and things like that, and mostly, by and large, they are best friends now. So it works at the family level, and so I don't run around talking to them about being best friends, about showing up for each other, about championing, about cheering them on. I did that for a really long time, and now they're able to, I think, by and large, do that on their best days. They're human. They're some days they don't, but on their best days, they're living out the values, and I don't have to. It's fun as I get older. I don't have to give the talks as much anymore. So anyway, I hope that was helpful, Andy. I think it's a really
that is brilliant. Thank you so much, and for the examples as well. Just the impact that this has then on people's lives, on the family unit, on, I'm sure, the city of Dallas as well, as your church congregation goes out into their places of influence, and just how just living out our faith, I guess, isn't it? That's what this is about.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. Yes. Well, good, brother.
So we've got, let's just run through those 6 again. So we've got clarify it, communicate it, celebrate it, correct it, choose it, and cycle it.
That's it.
Perfect.
And do it over and over and over again. And you'll be glad. I'm glad. I can't tell you how many fights I broke up in my family, and I'd come home, my wife was in tears. She's like, these kids, they hate each other. They don't just not like each other, they hate each other. And we stuck with it, and our kids, now they're 25, 23, 19, and 17, and most days they love each other, and I'm really glad that we stuck with it, even though we did not want to. It was too hard, but we did, and I'm glad. So results may vary, I don't know, but you'll always be glad that you stuck with it. So I hope
John,
that was helpful.
thank you so much for your time. Really good to speak to you again and see you, because we're doing this on Zoom. And who knows, maybe one day I'll make it out to Dallas again.
Okay, well, I'll look you up if I'm in. They say in Dallas, if I'm in your neck of the woods, I will look you up. So please tell Claire we said hello, and we'll talk to you again soon, brother. Thank you very much.
Take care, John. Thank you.
Bye.
Great. Well, there we are. That's John. That's what he had to share about church culture. What are your guys' kind of initial reactions to that lovely Texan voice?
Well, I could listen to him all day long, not going to lie. I thought it was really good. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I just think he is quite a few key points in there for us, perhaps as individuals or as a church team or a congregation to work on and to think about.
Yeah, and I think even though, obviously, I said we're thinking about church culture is everywhere, as Heather was sharing earlier, and we take culture with us everywhere we go, don't we? And he brought up about his own family culture actually at the end, doesn't he, as well, in that interview, and what they were doing as a family. So it's something that, yes, specifically we're kind of thinking about SPSJ church culture, I guess, but this is something that goes everywhere.
Yeah.
So there was a lot in there, as you say. I wonder if there's kind of one or two things that really grabbed you, that made you think, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought of it like that before.
I think that idea, it just sounds so simple. He makes it sound so simple. And yet it's taken them, what are they celebrating, their 25th year anniversary, and they're not a finished product. They're still on that journey and still developing. And it's like, well, if that's something we've spoken about it before, Andy, about this church culture and how it would be great if SPSJ had this kind of culture and so forth. And it's like, well, 25 years from now, that's where we could be in terms of the culture, not necessarily the size of the church and everything. And that bigger staff team, I think you'd have a lot on your hands with 100 staff members, wouldn't you, to be honest?
Yeah, I mean, they do have a executive pastor who teaches
go.
the MBA in Harvard, if I remember right. So, he's pretty good at running the things
that's
there.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's in another life for us. But yeah, I think it just makes it sound so simple but so effective. And you're listening to it and you're thinking, oh yeah, that makes complete sense. Like, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
But as he mentioned, it doesn't come without its difficulties, does it?
No, and I think the one expression he used at the end, I know we're going to the end first, was when he said, don't be paralysed by the long term, just take the next step, which I think sometimes we do, don't we? We go so far beyond, we forget to be in the moment and how we can work with what we've got at that time.
Finding that balance.
Yeah.
I really liked when he talked about the 24-hour rule, and he said, if you've got an issue with somebody, that you've kind of got 24 hours to then go and speak to them about it before you're potentially then sinning if you're gossiping. Or
we're going to serve them with a 24 hours. It's like, what?
I was like, wow, okay. So like, if I did that on myself, not necessarily for other people, but if I did that for myself, that really, I feel really challenged by that, because there are so many times when I can probably say, I really shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that, and I spoke ill of whatever situation, or not necessarily ill of them, but when you discuss a situation that's happened and you're discussing how it makes you feel, so you're not necessarily discussing the other person, but you're still not resolving that issue, and actually resolving conflict in that way. I thought was conflict shouldn't always be seen as this really negative thing. Like, we can have positive.
I was thinking, like, how much time would you get back to yourself, just mentally, rather than being mentally drained by situations just going round them in your head, if you resolve them within 24 hours, or you sought to resolve them within 24 hours. And like, how much time we would get back onto our hands, and how much more liberating and freeing
and
it would be.
Positive would the relationships be? If we build those relationships with each other, where we had the capacity to say, actually, you did that, or I don't completely agree with what you said to me. To then get a deeper friendship.
It just reminded me a bit of the woman who touched Jesus in the crowd. And it's like, who touched me? It's like, that was resolved straight there. And then she didn't want to be that person that owned up to it, but she did, and it was resolved, and she was liberated for it. And like, how quickly, if we sought to do the same, what a great culture or example that would set, not just to those in our congregations, but actually those in the local community as well. It would feed out.
And I mean, he used the word honesty a couple of times, didn't he? And that is a real desire for them to have honesty, because this belief of, actually, it's through honesty where the healing can then begin. So being honest in those situations where there is conflict, not hiding from it, being honest when things aren't working out. You mentioned about staff, didn't he? Choosing the culture when you're employing your staff as well. And if it doesn't work out, that's not necessarily, that's not a reflection on someone's gifting or ability. That's just didn't work out. That happens sometimes in life. And again, being honest about that. And then I know from when I was over there and chatting with them, there's this desire then to help that person to move into a place where they can flourish. And I think that's, what's impressive, isn't it, within this culture, is that desire for everybody to be flourishing, and that can only come through honesty. So there was lots in there. We had clarify it, communicate it, celebrate it, correct it, choose it, cycle it. Lots in there. 6 C's, and then he threw an extra 3 C's under choose it, didn't he?
Character,
chemistry and competency.
Character, competency. Again, so simple, but you don't realise it until you actually think it, do you? And could you imagine what our staff team, potentially at SPSJ, or just even in our places of work, would look like if we chose people based on how they fitted into the culture that we want to create in our businesses, in our churches, in our schools? I thought that was quite profound.
I mean, we've done a lot of this. It's interesting. I mean, within education in this country, there's been this huge shift that the Church of England is trying to lead on to move towards a values-based education system.
Yes.
So you have a vision, you have your values, and everything is driven through that, which is kind of what John's saying here too, isn't it? And we've been doing that at St James School, and it's just been really wonderful to have people then who come in from outside who haven't been part of that journey, and they're just blown away by what they find when they come in because of that work that's happened. I mean, even Ofsted recognised the ethos that was from the very top to right down to our lollipop lady, you know, and they couldn't believe that was like that. And Mary, you came in actually, didn't you, recently, and did a workshop with our kids?
I did,
and
yes.
experienced a bit of it for the first time.
Yeah, I did. Yes, came into St James's and into our other schools, St Thomas, Cantaloupe. Yeah, and it's just really good to see them all working together and just looking at things, I think, with a kinder heart or an outworking of respecting each other. And I think that's ultimately, you know, because at school is a bit like we were talking about here, isn't it? When you have conflict, when you fall out, finding ways to resolve it.
Yeah.
Imagine that 24-hour in schools. It'd be a really good way of...
So we do, yeah.
Yes.
So now restorative justice is what we use in schools.
Yeah.
Yes. We don't see much restorative justice in the workplace still.
No.
So schools are kind of a bit further down the line here
Yeah.
in how they're teaching kids to resolve things. Yeah.
Yeah, really
so
good.
much more positive.
Yes. Yeah.
And I liked what John said right at the start. We've kind of gone right to the end, but let's go right back to the start, where he said culture is an amazing way to help people do what is best for their group, for their family. And I guess that's what we're just saying about our kids as well, isn't it, in the schools, you know, that culture actually is a way of empowering people to give them the tools that they can then use.
Yes.
In a way that strategies and programs just don't really seem to do. I mean, which of the kind of 6 C's really stood out for you? Clarify it, communicate it, celebrate it, correct it, choose it, cycling it.
I really liked Celebrate It, and I absolutely loved when he did, when he was talking about the socks. I just thought that was...
I have a pair of these socks, I should confess. They gave them to all of us who attended the church leaders meeting.
Have you worn them?
I
Because he
have
said
not
they're
worn
not
them.
wearable.
They are still in the
Brilliant.
pack.
He said
I
they're
have
not
not
wearable.
opened the pack.
I feel like you should have them in your office, you know, put up on the walls somewhere.
Oh.
I just thought that was really great. I think it's amazing when we can celebrate, you know, those times when, you know, not just when we've done something really amazing, but when we've done something that's actually really hard, like, you know, talking through conflict and resolving issues, you know, actually celebrating how we do that. And, you know, Andy, that and Heather, that the church children's ministry has grown phenomenally, you know, before we started and I arrived with my many children.
They're a blessing.
Did half of children's ministry just with mine. But, you know, to be able to show that then to the children that, you know, this is how, you know, we can celebrate resolving conflict or resolving it, or, you know, having these amazing things happen. I think is, I love that.
It makes me think of, going back to my football coaching, like, is there a stop, stand still moment? So often when we use that phrase, stop, stand still, or freeze, to get them to stop and to think about or to correct something. But actually, those moments where you go, stop, stand still, should be celebrating something that's really, or highlighting something that is putting into practice exactly what you're trying to focus on and teach in that session, rather than, oh, that was a really good pass, or that was a really good shot, or whatever. But if you're really trying to hone in on one focus or topic in a session, what is your stop, stand still moment that you're celebrating? And it's the language you use as well around it. I think I was chatting with some of the kids' church leaders yesterday evening, and we were saying about giving children the tools and the language to use in situations. In terms of that the communicate it point 2, but also when there is conflict, actually, do we really give children and adults the tools and the language to use, rather than say, yes, we could challenge them. You've got 24 hours. Well, hang on, what do I do with those 24 hours? Like, how do I even approach it? I think instead of just communicating it, we need to give them the tools as well and empower them, which comes through the culture that we create naturally, I think.
I think one of the things I really liked about the celebrating is it's celebrating small things.
Yes,
I mean, we're really bad in the Church of England, we know this, celebrating things. And when we do celebrate things, it's usually something really big. Or, we did it recently, we thanked somebody who's been working in our children's church for 25 years. And it's not saying that they're not suggesting that you kind of, every year you have to do a celebration with the children's church team. It's those small moments in sessions where you go, do you know what? The way you taught our kids that particular topic was inspiring. It's celebrating those smaller things that just really do then just highlight that culture that you're wanting. And just go, you nailed it.
Otherwise, again, it becomes that institutionalised thing where every year on the first Sunday of the academic year, we're going to, or the last Sunday of the academic year, we're going to thank our leaders, we're going to pray for our leaders over the coming year. That becomes institutionalised. Whereas if you do it in spur of the moment, those stop, stand still moments of celebrating the small things, the people that you're celebrating appreciate it a lot more. And actually, it instills that culture even more. Rather than it being, it's that time of year again, here we go, kind of thing, and the expectation.
And I think for me, that takes back, you were saying which one spoke to you, I think it's about communication for me, so that's the one back. And he was talking about not just words, but practical outworking. It's difficult for us in the UK, because to be open and honest and, perhaps saying to somebody, what a brilliant thing you've just done. We don't do that easily, do we? We don't affirm people. We don't, and people find it hard to accept too, don't they? It's not just about the giving, it's about the receiver. And I do think, and he talked about having authenticity and value and honesty. And I think they're all things that we've really got to, I think, still be working on.
Always.
Yeah.
I think, under that communicating it as well, I thought it was really interesting that he was like, you need to be really clear then what is violating that culture.
Yes.
So you spot it and you go, no, and you put an end to it straight away.
Yeah.
You don't allow that to creep in, because you know what it doesn't look like as well as what it does look like. And I thought that was really interesting.
That's like, you might be clear on what the culture is you're trying to create and instill in your church, but those you're communicating it to might have a completely different idea or interpretation of what you mean by that.
Yes.
And how he said then at the end, kind of when you cycle it, you might be fed up of repeating yourself and telling them again and again, this is the culture we're trying to create. But it's when you get fed up that's when they've just starting to hear it and starting to grasp it. I think that's a little bit of a encouragement to keep going, to spur on, isn't it?
Definitely.
So I was thinking, and it's great to have Zoe as someone who's new to St James. So both Mary and Zoe are members of St James congregation. Mary's been in a lot longer than Zoe. We won't say how long, Mary. But I was thinking it'd be really interesting, as we're talking about church culture, what is the culture of St James like? What would you say, Zoe, as someone who's new? What have you found when you've come in? Mary, you've been here a long time. Has it changed? Has it? I thought it'd be really interesting to actually just explore what we think our culture's like.
Over to you, Zoe.
Well, I mean, we've been at St James now for just coming up for 2 years. So it'll be, I think it was October. I think we joined just after we moved here. And I think one of the things that I found about St James is it is quite possibly the warmest and most welcoming place I've ever been. I've got people that don't know me, possibly that well, even after a couple of years of here. But my husband, as you guys all know, my husband is currently away long term till February with his work, and we've had so many people say to us about what can we do, how can we help, and I think the culture of being a family here is what is most prevalent. That it really is a family atmosphere. Not once in the last month that I've been on my own have I ever felt on my own, because I could pick up the phone. I saw you in the street header the other day, and you were like, look, anything I can do.
I'm always randomly walking in the street.
I'll get a football, and I'll take the boys and play football, and
genuine,
which they would love, and Marie, one of our lovely ladies here, she was so sweet. She not last Sunday, we were here the Sunday before, you know, she was talking to my middle, and she was saying, you know, I've been praying for you guys. Like, we love you. We think of you all the time. And although he was a bit shy to talk properly to her, when we got home later that day, he was like, I really liked it when she said that to me. Like, you know, we've got family, and I think the culture of St James and St Peter, I think it's a family here. People are genuinely, it's not just words. No. People are genuinely there for each other, and if anything needs to happen, you know, they will action things. You know, they will stick together, and
it's not always the same people.
No. It's every, you know, it's such a variety of people, and I think, you know, I think that is what the world is lacking sometimes, is that extended family.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I think to be kind of clear for those listening as well, that's not because I have said, right, Zoe's husband's not going to be around. Everyone, make sure you look after. Put a program into place. Who's going to ring her this day? Who's going to? No,
it's totally
it's just natural.
It's organic. You know, people are they genuinely care. People don't have to be prompted. You know, people genuinely care about me and my family and us, and have welcomed us and want to get to know us. You know, they want to know about, you know, the life that we've had. You know, moving around with the army, the way we have. People find it interesting, and you know, it's a very warm place to be.
We've had our latest couple that have arrived, who have come over from Pakistan, and it's been really interesting, and they've literally just started coming the last few weeks, and yet straight away, you know, they see us moving chairs or something, and they come over and go, can we help? And you know, there's which is really lovely. It's that kind of sense of right from day one, you know, your family, and everybody mucks in and chips in, and it's really nice. So Mary, you've been here a lot longer, to say, you know, before me. What?
It's interesting for me. I came to Hereford when I married my husband Simon. Before that, I grew up in London, and I went to a very different style of church to coming here. So for me, actually, even coming to St Peter's and St James's was a complete culture change in terms of churchmanship. And we started off at St Peter's, and at that point, St James's didn't have any young people, children's work, and Simon, my husband, and I got asked if we would come to St James's and help set up some work with the young people, which we took our biblical year off before we came, and we set up our life here in St James's. And yes, I've seen the church ebb and flow over those years. I won't say how many. And but going back to what Zoe said, that's one thing I have always known the whole time I've been here, is the warmth of the people and the friendship and the hospitality. I don't know if it's something particularly special about St James's, but that's something that I've always, you know, even when it's been harder, even when it's just been a challenge, maybe, especially if you're the only family in church, there's no other children. You know, that was hard for me with my two. There was times when it was only ourselves and one other family, and it's hard. But people are faithful, people pray, and I have seen the church become a little more relaxed, less caught up in tradition, and allowing, I suppose, the Holy Spirit to be more at work in a So yes, but friendship has always been here, hospitality.
Lovely, thank you. That sounds like a really good place to kind of end. And do put in the comment sections, do go and have conversations with others, and just, what the groups, the communities, the churches maybe you're part of, what does the culture look like there? And being honest in that, and then addressing those things that we need to keep working on, because none of us are perfect. We all need to stick with it even when we don't want to, as John said. So thank you all for listening, and we'll be back again next month.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope this episode has got you thinking, and please share this conversation with someone as we continue to learn and grow together. We look forward to you joining us again next time.